is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Got to hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third. And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big time length, big time game.
Pope straight away three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope off glass and good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right, it's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans by the fans. And you're not going to believe it, but we have the band back together, all three of us on the line, all at the same time. Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and of course, boss Josh Taylor. How's it going, guys?
What's up, man?
What's going on, guys?
Now, as you guys know, we are technologically retarded, so it's
speak for yourself.
Yeah, wow.
So it's taken us a long time to figure out how to get us all on at the same time. Who knows how this is going to go? But we're going to give it a whirl. We're going to all be on at the same time. So of course we're going to start with Joshy because this is his segment. How's everything been? We haven't talked to you for a couple weeks, Josh.
Everything's going good, man. Obviously the only I was actually very happy. Well, I shouldn't say I was happy that the Aztecs made it to the NIT, but it was nice that it was televised where I could watch some games because I missed a lot of Aztec basketball this year.
Right.
And everything was pretty exciting up until last night, huh, guys?
Yeah. Last night was a blindfold game. You didn't want to watch that crap.
Yeah, it was kind of a shitstorm last night. I asked this question before, and we were going to try and bring Mikey on later, but he's not available tonight, so we won't have to be able to get his opinion. But I'm going to ask you guys again, because I had asked this already, and you guys gave me a different answer, but would you have rather gone one and done in the big tournament or done what we did in the NIT? Which one did you prefer? How about you, Justin?
I much rather have done what they did, only because it sounds kind of stupid, but I know we could have gotten in the big dance, which would have been great. But to have 3 home games, to sell out your venue, 2 of those games for ACC, an ACC team and a Pac-12 team, brought a lot of life to the city. This city was kind of buzzing about it, and what an atmosphere was there. I tend to take the NIT side. Got to Madison Square Garden. What an experience for some of the younger guys. So yeah, I mean, I'd much rather win 3 games. They had a shot at 30 wins again, which is ridiculously good. So rather than be one and done in the big one, I would have taken these 3 NIT wins.
How about you, Josh? What would you have rather done?
I agree with some of the comments that Justin was just saying, but ultimately, regardless of knowing what had happened, if you would have asked me beforehand, I would have for sure said one and done in March Madness, because at least you have the opportunity to win the big dance.
Right.
You're part of the party. You have an opportunity to win the big dance. Now, hindsight being 20/20, and now knowing what the outcome was, and us not getting to the big dance, and like Justin said, winning 3 games, and making it to Madison Square Garden looking at the seniors and the way that they could, continue to play on and play on and play on and get a couple more games left in their career at the collegiate level, I think was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool that the seniors did get a few more games, and I personally preferred them going to the NIT because they had a shot to win that. Let's be honest, they couldn't get it together this year, and although I guess they could have beat anybody, ultimately going to the big tournament, they weren't going to win it. It just wasn't going to happen. They had a better shot at winning the NIT. Those games that they won were fun to watch. Minus last night's game, which, like I said, was just tough to watch because they played so poorly. But the way they played yesterday, that's why they didn't make that big tournament, because they had too many games like yesterday's game.
Yeah, no, you're right, Jason. Obviously, last night their offense wasn't going, and because their offense wasn't going, their defense was playing on its heels, and they weren't able to, clamp down and get a run. Their offense, people, talk about their defense all the time, but their defense only works well because their offense is successful, at least a good portion of the game. But last night, their offense was pitiful. Hats off to GW for forcing the Aztecs to shoot it outside, because when they got in the paint, the entire GW team was sitting there in the paint to swat everything away.
Yeah.
What about that 5'5" kid that kept rebounding basketballs?
I know.
I'm like, hey, anybody want to pick him up and swat him away?
Yeah.
Jeez.
The thing is that I recognized about their defense is they basically played that zone. What was it, the 1-1-3 or whatever, the
1-3-1 type of
zone? They basically said, hey, shoot the basketball and beat us, and Aztecs couldn't do it. They couldn't beat the zone, and they could not hit an outside shot to make them pay for that zone, and unfortunately, that was kind of the blueprint to beat the Aztecs this year, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think with that zone, earlier in the year they got exposed too on a couple of games where they got played zone and they packed the paint and dare you to shoot. And there were games where the Aztecs stepped up and hit their shots, and there were games where I can remember the ULR game, Little Rock. And Little Rock's no slouch. They went to the NCAA tournament and won some games.
Right.
They did the same thing. So, fast-paced, moving teams. Now, going forward, I think that what the Aztecs need to improve upon is they need a big man similar to Skyler, but a guy that can actually score in the low post. A big beefy guy, doesn't need to swat shots all day, just needs to grab rebounds and have a low post threat. So I don't want to get too into next year yet, but I think going forward they really need to go get a transfer, somebody with some experience. I think Josh would probably agree with that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm not taking anything away from Skyler Spencer. He's had a phenomenal career. Do I think he's NBA worthy? I don't know. He's great defensively. Obviously, he blocks balls like crazy, but his scoring, his free throws, that's going to kind of hurt him a little bit when it comes to getting an eye. He might have some time over there in Europe or whatnot. But I agree with Justin. We do need somebody who can score down low on a consistent basis. There's sometimes that Shepard would back people down and he would be successful, but not enough. We don't have enough of a low post play, and we're forced to shoot outside, and when we don't, you see what happens last night. We end up getting clobbered because we can't make shots.
Can I make a statement? And I saw Darren's comment, and I totally agree with him. He said, I'm ready for Shepard era to end. Dude was disappointment overall and seems like a punk. I would agree with a few points. I don't think he's a punk anymore. I thought he was a punk as freshman and sophomore year. I think he tried to do too much last night, way too much. He threw up some shots, and he shouldn't have the ball late in games anyway.
Yeah, he forced way too much.
Yeah. Right, we were down 12, 15 points, and he's sitting there chucking up 3-pointers. And but I'm with Darren. I'm ready for the Shepard era to end. I like him. I respect him as an Aztec player. I just was never a big fan of him. I thought he played out of control. There were times where he had big games. and he showed a lot of that versatility that he has. But then there were just other games where he looked like last night. So, but yeah, I'm ready for a new era of Aztec basketball with leading by Kell, Hemsley, Malik Pope. I don't think he'll leave. I think he'll test the waters. But definitely right there with Darren. I'm ready for a new age in Aztec basketball.
Now, obviously, Malik Pope hasn't had the issues as far as, a vocal, kind of, get in trouble with your mouth. Winston would kind of get in trouble with his mouth a lot, especially in the early years, and wasn't a good leader and everything. I don't see that as much out of Pope, but the inconsistencies are very similar to Winston Shepherd out of Malik Pope. We see some glimmer. You see some of those games where he puts up 20 points and gets 10 rebounds, but then you see a lot of games where he's just chucking up threes when he should be taking people to the hole. I mean, he's got ball skills. He can control the ball down low. He needs to start doing more of that, getting close to that bucket, rather than just settling for 3-point shots, with the guy in the face.
Yeah, I agree with you on the inconsistency, Pope. He showed flashes of brilliance, and you'd see little streaks of what everybody was talking about and what all the hype was. I think if he didn't come back next year, he'd be crazy, because he's definitely not ready to be to go to the NBA yet. He just doesn't have the consistency. He certainly looks like he has the athletic ability, but he needs to be able to put that together, and he needs at least one more year before he's ready, I think.
Right. He doesn't pass the eye test to you guys either. So, I mean, if Jason's saying that, he doesn't watch every game in the world. So I think everybody from a distance can see that Malik Pope probably needs a year.
At least, yeah.
Now, I'd be curious to see one more year with Malik Pope with Winston Shepherd gone. Malik Pope is probably going to try to fill that Winston Shepherd role. And, it would be nice to see, with that added role, with the added responsibility on the offensive side, if he can start to become more consistent.
Right.
And if he doesn't, we might be Winston Shepherd number 2. All the hype coming in, high rankings, and just doesn't turn into anything.
No, agreed. And I think with the talent coming in, as far as transfers and recruits, you got a lot of guys from storied programs coming in here, so it's very nice to see. And I think Malik can take that next step with one more year. I think he needs that year, even just to fill out a little bit. He's too lean. He still gets banged around inside. He can't hold his own down there.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, what is this? Matt Strigley's? He's a junior this year.
That was his junior year because he couldn't do a medical red shirt, so he played pretty much half the year. Yeah.
Right. So he'll be a senior this coming year, and he's going to be a big factor. I mean, obviously it took him a little while to get his shot, arguably so. With the ACL injury and actually coming back way sooner than anybody thought. It'll be nice to have a healthy Strigley going into next year, because that gives us some of that outside shot that we were badly missing for a majority of this year.
Right, to add with Max Holtzel from Indiana, who's just a sharpshooter. So, I mean, it's ridiculous what this team could be next year, actually shooting the ball.
Well, let's move on before we get too far into this here. Let's move over. The Padres season is starting. We haven't talked a ton of Padres stuff. This is the time of the year, when everybody's excited for the season to begin. We're all optimistic over how everything's going to go. Quickly from you guys, last year the Padres were 74-88 last year. Very disappointing. Justin, we all lived through it with Justin last year, going towards the second half of the season. He was just done. He was so upset.
I was.
On paper, from last year to this year, you can make the argument that they're not as good of a team. In baseball, that doesn't really matter. Do you guys think they're going to win more games or less games than they won last year? What do you say, Josh?
I have a hard time believing they're going to win more games. I just don't think we have enough offensive, prowess in the lineup. Now, we could be a little better defensively. I'm not saying that we were horrible defensively last year, but you could easily make that argument that we weren't spectacular for sure. So I think we could be potentially a little better defensively. I think we're going to be lacking some offensive production. And still a lot of questions as far as who's our starting five. I mean, maybe you guys can answer that question, because over here I don't get any Padres news. Obviously you have the main three, but who's the 4 and 5? Have you heard anything?
Well, you got Colin Ray and Maurer. They're probably going to be the 4 and the 5. It's kind of funny that Lincecum, as far as I know, still hasn't signed with anybody. You'd thought he would have hooked up with somebody by now. But that's who I think they're going to go into the starting 5, unless they have the rumors of this big Pablo Sandoval trade. That's a possibility. So who knows what's going to happen with the...
Please no.
I know. I say the same thing. Please.
He looks like the Michelin Man.
You know what's funny about that, though, guys, is how many times have you had a guy like Pablo Sandoval, who was so successful in the National League West, go to an American League team and struggle?
Right. Well, I mean, that happens a lot, but I mean, just the way come on, Fenway Park is a very hitter-friendly park. I just didn't see it last year, and his demeanor off the field, the trouble he got into. Why would you want that guy in your clubhouse? I couldn't see it right now.
Friar Blue in the chat room.
Friar Blue, let me just put this out here. He's very Friar Blue. He calls in like radio stations and stuff too.
Yeah.
He's very negative.
He's hating on the Aztecs so far.
He hates on the Aztecs. He's hating. He's got 60 wins. Tops.
He's got the Padres losing 100 games. So
he's very negative, but I love his input. He always brings his A game. With he's worse than I am with negativity. This guy, he knows how to bring it, but he is a big fan, so I love the input. 60
tops. I wonder if he's saying that because he's pissed off about the moves that they made, or if he doesn't like the Padres.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm full of optimism, man. I think that we're going to win more games than we won last year. I think last year, the managing change kind of screwed things up bad. It was a complete backfire. I actually, optimistically, there's a reason why I'm called Positive Patty. I think that we win more games than we won last year. I just think that.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that real quick too. I think
Fire Preller.
I think this year's team is going to be much better than last year's team. And do I have any rhyme or reason for it? A couple reasons. More solid up the middle defensively this year. Cashner, you can attribute, you can look at as a guy who just got reamed by defensive struggles last year, even though his record is what it was. And I just feel like this team has more veteran leadership. Now, do I think they're going to go to the playoffs? No. But I really think that they're going to be a better team for the veterans they brought in. Alexi Ramirez, John Jay is a really good clubhouse guy, good leader guy, won a World Series. I think Alexi Ramirez won a World Series with the White Sox as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I really like the moves they made on the defensive and the offensive side. Now pitching, another story. Like Josh was saying, who knows what the top 5 guys or the last 2 guys are going to pan out to be. Lincecum has a showcase coming up pretty soon. They keep pushing it back. He wants to be game time ready, so we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think this is going to be an interesting year for the Padres. I really do, guys. But the whole key to the year is Will Myers' health. If he can stay healthy, the Padres can do a lot of things. If he's batting .285, close to 30 home runs, like we know he probably could with a full healthy season, kid's amazing if he just can stay on the field.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Will Myers this year, Josh? Do you think that he's kind of the key to them having success this year, and do you think he's going to stay healthy?
I think he's a huge key to our success. But track record shows, aside from his rookie year, he's been, hampered with injuries, especially with his wrists. It's a concern, and it's a valid concern. Could the tables turn? Sure. Could the surgery have worked? I hope so. But I think he's a big factor in whether or not the Padres are successful moving forward. I mean, obviously, he's got the talent. He's got the tools. It's just a matter of can he be out there on a regular basis, because you saw what he did last year early on before he got hurt. The Padres are playing extremely well when he was, in the lineup. He was very productive, and so if he can stay healthy, I mean, that's definitely gonna help, our offense that I'm concerned with.
Yeah, I agree with you, and real quickly, Friar Blue wants to call in to defend his negativity, which trust me, I look forward to that. We talked about technologically how retarded we are. Josh is actually using the phone line right now. We can only take actually one phone call at a time, and right after Josh, we got our segment with Jake Hefner. So after the Charger segment with Jake Hefner, call in and we'll go any direction you want. We can talk Aztecs, we can talk Padres, we can talk Chargers. We can talk about the Padres losing 100 games.
He's already ripped 2 of our franchises. Yeah. See if he can do the Chargers now.
Which is fine,
Hey,
yeah, go for it.
Really quick, because I know my time is short.
No, it's not.
What's the most recent word on the stadium issue?
You know what? The thing is, they had a big thing that they released this week. I was going to wait. I didn't even read that much about it. I was going to wait and ask Jake. So after you get off, stay on, because that's one of the questions I'm going to have Jake, so he can give us the scuttlebutt on exactly what's going on with the stadium.
Because I heard what I read briefly was that the NFL is actually giving us more money now. I want to say it was over $600
million is what I heard.
Right, it was going towards the stadium, and then the other money, for the most part, was coming from hotel taxes.
To a TOT tax.
They were increasing to like 4%, I believe.
Yep.
No. It's going from 10 to 16%.
Okay.
It would be 10 because we are one of the lowest, as far as tourism cities, one of the lowest TOT taxes in America, which doesn't make sense because San Diego is a beautiful place and a lot of people come here.
Yeah, they probably need to raise that anyways.
Right. Comparable to Phoenix, they're up to, I think, what did I hear today? Phoenix, to get all their stadium stuff built, I think they're at 15.5. So comparable to Phoenix. I mean, come on. Where would you rather go? Josh.
Right. Now, the new number is 1.8 billion.
Billion. Yeah.
Right. Well, because it's a convention center as well.
Yeah, because it's going to be a convention center expansion as well, though.
Well, and I think the first one was it even $1 billion, or was it 1.2?
It was 1.2 or 3.
Yeah, but this is they're talking about putting a roof on it because they want to have it as an extension of the convention center, kind of like a 2 birds, 1 stone type of thing, and like I said, there'll be more stuff coming out, and I'm sure Jake knows a lot more about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so stay on. Stay in the chat room if you can afterwards, and after you get off and listen to Jake. But we're gonna let you go because I am gonna bring Jake in.
Cool.
All right.
Josh, it was nice talking to you. Keep in touch with yourself.
Always do, buddy.
All right, bro.
All right, man.
Talk to you guys later.
All right, Josh.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So that was Josh calling in his segment. First time ever we've had both of us on. I'm trying to see. I don't know how to do this still. Oh, well.
It's all right, dude. If you got a trial
I'm trying to figure out. You know what? I think I'm going to disconnect both of you guys, and then you come back in. You know how to come back in, and then I'm going to have Jake call in. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jake Hefner on the other side, and Justin Smead staying with us this time.
With your business project that is due, maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, From business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
All right, we are back. We've been gone it's been 2 weeks since we got a chance to talk to our favorite contributor. Of course, that's Jake Hefner from ProFootballSpot.com. We are back and better than ever. Jake, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Glad to have you back. Glad to talk to you guys again.
Yes, and we did something, as we said during the first segment, and as you have learned right here along with us, we are technologically retarded on this show. However, we have figured out now how to get multiple people on the line, so it's not just you and me. We got Justin Smeed on the line, too.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. What's up, Jake? How we doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. How are you? Good to hear you.
It's good to talk to you, man. It's been probably like 2 months, so I'm fired up to talk Charger football with you.
Indeed, sir. Looking forward to it.
I think next week, believe it or not, knock on wood, we might have the band back together, and I think we figured a way to get Josh, Justin, me, and you all on the phone line at the same time. So, should be pretty awesome.
If that happens, you should just play NWO music.
Yeah.
For inspiration of the show. That'd be perfect.
Oh man.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of stuff has happened. Now, Jake, my first question is: do you want to start with individual Charger talk, or do you want to get right into stadium talk? Where do you want to start?
Hey, man, I always follow the rule of the show. We go all over the place. It's your call. It's your guys' show.
Yeah, I think we are going to be bouncing around a lot, but we might as well start with the stadium talk. We talked a little bit about it before you came on. They did release a whatever they want to call it, where the plan or whatever, where it's going to be at the end of the, it's going to be kind of a convention. First of all, this is the way I understand it. It's going to be a combination with a convention center expansion. They're talking about $1.8 million. They're talking about raising the hotel tax to help pay for it. Is this seem like something that is going to happen, or are we still too early? Or first of all, are all those things correct in what I've said?
They're correct. I think when you look at this offer as a whole, you're talking about 100 pages that were actually released earlier today as far as information regarding everything about the stadium. So we're talking 65,000 plus seating. Obviously it's going to integrate the convention center, the Convadium, as a lot of people are calling it. $650 million being donated from the Chargers. That's including the money that they had gotten from the NFL to come back to San Diego, and the additional funds, which would come out to, I believe it's 1.3, 1.5, somewhere in that area, to pay out the 1.3, 1.5 billion total, will be paid by the hotelier tourist tax. So the tax is going to be going up about 4%, and then of course that'll be paid over the duration of about 20 years or however long the lease is that they ultimately agree to. But this is basically not going to be costing a dime for anybody that lives in San Diego. And San Diego, of course, is one of the best tourist attractions anywhere for people to travel to in Southern California. So the Chargers believe that the feasible plan that they have on paper, as far as not having to make citizens pay for any part of this stadium whatsoever, the additional contribution that they have gotten from the Chargers as well as the NFL, and the raised hotel tax in this type of area, under this type of pretense, to basically make all parties happy, including the convention center that has wanted an expansion for a while. They believe that this is the right plan. Now, of course, the convention people fired back on this today, that they just want a straight convention expansion. They're not too happy about this because they have their own events and things that they want to do, but this is ultimately going to be part of the hurdles that the Chargers are going to have to go through over the next couple of months. So they know that they're going to be doing the citizens initiatives, which is similar to what they did in Carson as far as collecting the over 66,000 signatures that they're going to need to eventually get this on the ballot for the November vote. So still a lot of hurdles to jump, but obviously this was the one that everybody was waiting for as far as the details of the stadium. We still haven't gotten anything as far as what it's looked like, because I believe the Chargers haven't agreed yet upon whether or not they wanted a retractable roof on the stadium yet. But, of course, that's going to be coming down the line. But obviously this is the biggest thing that everybody's kind of been waiting for as far as the finance goes. And then ultimately the big X factor in all of this will be the if the two-thirds vote is still going to be on the law docket, or eventually if it's going to change to just 50% that will be needed to get the stadium up and running.
That was going to be my next question, actually, is if it was going to require a two-thirds vote. So right now, currently, it would require a two-thirds vote is the way I understand it, the way you said it. Now, curious to me is everything that you said, why would anybody vote against it?
Well, I mean, you know, it's politics, my friend. It's the unfortunate nature of politics. And honestly, you know, if you listen to, you know, certain radio stations that have come out before the plan was even out as far as, you know, just building a stadium in downtown, there were a lot of callers that I heard just as far as talking about traffic and, you know, just convoluting that area and just packing more things in that didn't necessarily need to be there. There was people there that were just talking about it for those reasons alone. And these were people that said that they were Charger fans for 20-some-odd years. So is everybody going to have that same opinion? Of course not. But these are the types of opinions that are out there. Of course, these people were talking amongst the pretense of the possibility of having to pay for it themselves, which they didn't know. But again, now we know what this is ultimately going to take, what the Chargers are requiring of the city, how to get this stadium financed. So the good thing is that it is not going to cost anybody living in San Diego one single penny to do this. But of course, the politics in this entire thing comes into play, and that's never an easy thing to go through.
Yeah, you know, politics and how people are going to vote are always tricky, and even if you don't understand the other side, there's plenty of people out there that have a different opinion than you, and it's going to be interesting. And I'm going to ask you at the end, of course, for your prediction on percentage-wise if this is going to happen or not, because that's what we do at the end of every segment of yours. But let's move on to specific players, because that's what we're most interested in talking about. Bryn Renner was signed, I believe it was today. He's been in a couple different camps, undrafted free agent quarterback. You hear a lot of, every time the Chargers sign anybody like this, you have some people that make more out of it than it really is. Is he anything more than a camp arm, or do you think that there's a possibility for him to actually make this roster?
There was two things that this move told me, and nothing else should really be looked into it any more than this. Number one, it tells me that the Chargers are completely content with the depth chart at the quarterback position, with it being Phillip Rivers, Kellen Clemens, and Brad Sorensen. Second thing it tells me is that the Chargers will not be drafting a quarterback in this year's draft, that the successor for Phillip Rivers is not in this current draft. So they will probably, most likely, be looking toward next year as far as the possibility of drafting the heir apparent to Phillip Rivers.
Now, hey, Jake, I missed a lot with you and Jason. I'm sure you guys covered this. Moving over the offensive line, what do you make of all the re-signings of? And now I know everybody wasn't healthy last year, and we know that's well documented. What do you make of the Chargers? Signings, re-signings of some of these players, and where does that leave them for strategy in the draft? A lot of people want Tunsil. Of course, he's a beast. I just watched his pro day. It's crazy. The guy can move so good. Now, what do you make out of it, and what do you see the Chargers doing as far as offensive line? Do they wait later in the draft with quality, later round quality, or do they go early and get a Tunsil or I'm forgetting the other kid's name. I think it's Mississippi State. I'm not No, that's never mind. Who do you think they're going to draft?
Well, ultimately, going back to the original question of what do I think of all the offensive line moves, there's two different ways to look at this. One, people can say is like, okay, well, they brought back all the same players, and ultimately that just is going to equate to the same type of football that was played last year, which wasn't really good along the offensive line, considering most of these guys were injured. I believe along the offensive line, 5 guys were out for a certain amount of games that were all related to concussions. Other injuries, of course, were other extremities. But when you look at it, there has to be some type of level of continuity. I mean, you can't just keep rotating in, 3 or 4 or 5 different guys every single year. You're not going to have any balance or any communication with your quarterback. That's just not how it's built. So, in essence, bringing Barksdale back, I thought was a great move. I thought that was absolutely necessary. I love the fact that King Dunlap ultimately took a pay cut and readjusted some things in his contract. You brought back some depth with Kenny Wiggins and Chris Harrison and getting them secured along the backside of the line. And of course, Tom Telesco might say now that Chris Watt is the starting center as of this very moment. I do not believe that will be the case. I believe that he will be a backup guard come game 1 of this season. And I think personally, because of the fact that they've done all these moves along the offensive line, I think this rules out the fact that you can expect the Chargers to invest, if they stay put, at their third overall spot in the draft order. Now, of course, if Tunsil just so happens to fall in their lap, if Tennessee does, something egregious as far as maybe taking Jalen Ramsey number 1 overall, it may change things, because really, it's hard to pass up a talent like Tunstall when you see what he's done on the field, what he did at his pro day this week with the bench press, and just, the guy is a freak for an offensive lineman. That there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, if obviously he's off the board, there's not really anybody of value after him at the number 3 spot that you should really be looking at in the first round. So if it's me, I'm immediately focusing in on probably what the weakest point of the the offensive line was last year, and that's the center position. Chris Watt experiment didn't work. Trevor Robinson experiment didn't work. A lot of people have been talking about Ryan Kelly out of Alabama, possibility that he might be there at the beginning part of the second round. And then another individual that I've actually been centering around on as kind of a sleeper pick, possibly may even be available in the third, is Austin Blythe out of Iowa. And not too much has been talked about this kid, because you've got Nick Martin and you've got a couple other center prospects that are ahead of him. But Iowa just knows how to breed quality offensive linemen that transition pro-ready into the NFL. And the only knock on Blythe is that he's a little bit undersized at 6'2". But if he's sitting there in the early part of the third round, I think he'd be a steal for the Chargers to pick up and solidify that center position.
Does he have enough talent to come in and start day 1?
Yes, 100%.
Now, you mentioned Jalen Ramsey, so we seem to kind of talk about him each week. He seems to be moving up, and it's starting to me, the little bit that I've been reading, that he might not even be available at number 3. But another thing that I've been reading is anybody who drafts him, if you put him at safety, you're wasting his talent. So this is a multi-part question here. Number 1, of course, is he going to be available at 3? If he's available at 3, are the Chargers going to draft him? And then if the Chargers draft him, where do they put him?
I think he is going to be available at 3. What you've been hearing from Tennessee for the past several weeks is they have made it very clear that they want to trade the number 1 pick. Why not get some people talking and get them interested in possibly trading up if you're talking about picking arguably the best player in this draft in Jalen Ramsey at number 1 overall, and get people interested in making a deal. Remember, these next couple of weeks are going to be the season of fibs, smoke, no fire, anything like that. So everything can only be taken in reality with a grain of salt up until 24 hours in reality before the draft. As far as wasting Jalen's talent, it's really hard to argue that at this standpoint. a lot of the only thing that's really been made that's a big question mark on Jalen Ramsey is the fact that he didn't have that many college interceptions. So what type of playmaker is he going to be? And at the very least, this is one thing that you know about the Chargers. They always covet versatile players. That's exactly what Jalen Ramsey is. And if you put him in a type of situation, let's just say if you draft him at number 3 and you have him as your starting safety alongside Jaleel O'Day, Brandon Flowers, Jason Verrett, and then you add in, of course, Casey Hayward as your secondary. First of all, that's just nasty on paper.
Yeah.
Let's just say the worst happens, and maybe this ends up being Brandon Flowers last season. Maybe he turns in another bad year, and the Chargers ultimately release him. Now you can shift Jalen Ramsey over to the corner spot. You have him and Verrett as your outside corners, still have Hayward there in the slot, and then you go out and you possibly invest yourself in another safety. So you're almost covering your bets in that certain type of circumstance. But at the same time, with the skill set that Ramsey brings forth on the field, I don't believe that you're really weakening him that much by putting him at the safety position. I mean, he's an aggressive, all-around type of secondary that immediately can step in and be a leader to a unit that he steps into on the field. So I don't believe that you're wasting his talent, even if you're drafting him at number 3. It's really hard to argue that anybody would really be disappointed with the Chargers taking him because of the type of talent he is. If anything, it's value, because he should be ranked number 1 and arguably should be taken number 1. So if you get him at 3, what's the problem?
Hey, Jake, speaking and keeping it with versatility, a guy I'm very fond of and been watching more tape and stuff on him. Not breaking down tape, just watching highlights and stuff. Myles Jack.
That was going to be my next point. Good one.
Well, Myles Jack obviously brings kind of like a Jalen Ramsey type of guy. He brings he's played running back, he's played linebacker. I think he's played a little safety. Now I just read a bunch of quotes from Myles Jack recently saying the Chargers have spoken to him and said that they would have him or have him play a safety position. Now, if the Chargers think if they're going to do what I think they're going to do, they're going to trade back and get multiple picks. That's just what I think they're going to do. Do you think a Myles Jack would be available, say, before the 15 mark, and where do you see Myles Jack going, or does he even go that high? What's your assessment on Myles Jack?
Myles Jack has a top 5 label on him, and well deserving. And exactly because of what you just said, because of the versatility. But when you see this guy play on tape, he's just a motor. He is just nonstop. He's all over the field. Right. And whether it's at the safety position, the linebacker position, and then stepping in at running back was just, unique. And for the fact of what he was able to do and just, switching positions like that, obviously the Chargers wouldn't bring him in on that type of position, but it just shows you the type of football character that he has to do something like that. So anybody that would be drafting, would want somebody like that on your squad. Now, of course, everybody was kind of freaking out for a little bit today when they came out and they heard these quotes that, the Chargers had said to Jack during his pro day. I mean, it's just indicative of where they ultimately feel that if they did draft him, where they would put him. Doesn't give any indication, of course, that they will. And do I believe that if you're going to put him at safety, if you're going to draft him at 3, that you put him at safety? I may not 100% agree with that. I would be more on your page, Justin. That they trade back, they get multiple picks, but ultimately, if they do that, I don't believe that Jack will be falling out of the top 5. So, if your plan was to trade back in hopes, fingers crossed, that you would land him, I unfortunately don't believe that's going to be the case. I think Jack. I would be shocked if for some reason if Myles Jack falls out of the top 5.
Would you take Myles Jack or Jalen Ramsey at the 3 spot?
I would take Jalen Ramsey if I had to.
Gotcha.
Now, with all this talk of everybody always wants to move down. Every single year it seems like I want to move down. I think everybody wants to move down this year. Let's say the Chargers do move down and Jalen Ramsey is gone and Myles Jack is gone. Are you comfortable with the current safeties on the roster going into this season? Obviously, they're going to draft other people, so we will have some players on the team, some upgrades on the team. But safety is one of the positions that we are looking to maybe still get one more guy. Are you comfortable with Lowry and Adai back there at safety, or do you think that they're going to have to make another free agent move?
No, I would still think that if it ultimately came down to it, because you're at this point now in the free agency pool to where it's pretty much been, picked dry, I think the Chargers would still at some point in this draft, invest in a safety, and not necessarily in the first round, but of course, people like Von Bell would be on the board because he's not on the board, off the board because he's a perennial first round pick. I'd be surprised if he slipped around too. But you got a Darren Thompson out of Boise State that, in reality, in my opinion, as far as the free safety ball hawking type of player that you should be looking for that would complement Jaleel Adai's physicality at the strong safety position, I think he would be a great complement to that and a good fit in the secondary. There's other options that I've seen even mocked to the Chargers as far as Jeremy Cash has been one, Miles Killebrew, he's a little bit further down, and then a great piece that Bolts with the Blue actually put up was a good profile piece on Western Virginia's Carl Joseph. And the thing about him is that dude is a monster. But in my opinion, he's more of a strong safety than a free safety. So if you would ultimately draft him, then where are you using two strong safeties on the field? I don't really know how they would end up really working that. I think they could, but it would definitely kind of offset, I think, what you ultimately want for the secondary.
Jake, go ahead.
Okay,
I was just going to ask him about tight ends, and I've heard a couple names. I can't remember them, obviously. I was reading an article yesterday, but that's why we have you, Jake. Obviously, tight end is a concern and a need this year with Ladarius going.
That's for sure.
Yeah, going to Pittsburgh. So I hear there's a kid from Stanford, or I want to say one of the Pac-12 schools that would be high on the list for Tom Telesco. What's your assessment of the tight end spot, and where do you see the Chargers pulling the trigger on a tight end? Second, third, maybe fourth?
I'm going to say at this point right now, because other needs are much more drastic. Even when you look at the depth chart of what it is right now in the tight end, it's not pretty. But I'll still say that with the tight end being such a weak class, there still are some gems that you could possibly unearth for what you need right now behind Antonio Gates. So if it's me right now, I'm saying no higher than a third round do you invest a pick in the tight end. As far as individuals that we could start naming, a piece will actually be released tonight by myself, the first collaborative piece from one of my colleagues that I've actually been working with for a long time now on Pro Football Spot by the name of Matthew Pagels. And him and I actually teamed up to write a piece on Ohio State's Nick Vannett, and then you've got Western Kentucky's Tyler Higbee. So we both have our own different perceptions as far as how we view both of these guys, the type of assets that we believe that they could be utilizing the Chargers offense, because obviously right now what you're looking at is transition. And transition, ultimately, what's going to be remaining when Antonio Gates is no longer on this roster. So we both have our opinions as far as how both of these guys could step into that, second-string tight end spot, learn from Antonio, and ultimately, hopefully, be what you need them to be when Antonio Gates is no longer on this team.
Sticking with the draft, first I'm going to read a comment from our chat room from Darren, who's always giving us some interesting insight into his mind. He says, F moving down, the third pick makes that shitty season easier to swallow, which is much different than the way we've been looking at it. But I keep saying that I want him to move down. And I don't know if we've actually got your thoughts on it, Jake. Would you rather sit at number 3 and get, and get some high big name player, or would you rather move down and get more picks? What's your thoughts on that?
It really is all indicative of what the draft board says at that point in time. To me, if you're going to move down, how far are you willing to move down? If we're talking about a package that's moving us all the way down to 27, I'm not so sure, even from what you could be getting in return off of it, that you would actually take that, considering the fact that you're sitting at number 3 with a lot of premier talent that is obviously going to start from day one and be a lot of really, really good impact players. Again, the Chargers haven't been this high in the draft in over a decade.
Yeah.
So they know how much this pick means to them. But if you're talking about possibly moving down to, say, 8 through 12, that maybe looks a little bit more attractive. You could definitely snag an extra second-round pick that could ultimately help out the Chargers as far as having 2 of those for this year's draft. And of course, maybe you're not getting that big of a haul that everybody thinks that they would want as far as acquiring more picks. But at the same time, you don't want to put yourself out of a position to be able to get some of the premier guys in this draft. So it's ultimately indicative of what the draft board is going to tell you by the time number 3 hits, and how far are you actually willing to move down.
Another thing is we keep talking about all these guys. They need to draft a safety. They need to draft an offensive lineman. They need to draft a defensive lineman. They need to draft a tight end. All of these things, and we only have, 7 picks this year, I think. It's 7 or 6, I can't remember. One thing that you talked about was a fullback. So my next question to you is, we know the Chargers are going to, we're pretty sure the Chargers are going to add a fullback. Is this going to be somebody they're going to draft? Is this going to be somebody they sign undrafted free agent? Or is this going to be a regular free agent when the Chargers add a fullback to the roster? Which way do you think they're going to end up going?
Well, the good thing is that the Chargers actually have 8 picks this year once they got the compensatory picks back for the 5th round. Yes, which is a big help. Ultimately, I think if the Chargers are going to solidify a fullback spot on this roster, if they value a true fullback at that particular point in time, I could see them drafting one anywhere from round 6 to an undrafted free agent.
Dakota Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, and that would not be a bad choice. Gordon to Gordon. Who doesn't want to hear that combination one day set on the San Diego way? Gordon to Gordon.
Fun, yeah.
Dan Vitale has still always been my favorite as far as the quote-unquote superback. I still believe he's the best well-rounded fullback as far as, just his blocking skills alone, but ultimately he can prove to be a much more valuable weapon in an offense that truly brings a lot of versatility to it when you have Phillip Rivers at the quarterback position. So I would think no higher than round 6 would they invest in something like that. But ultimately, like example, Dakota Gordon, I don't believe that Dakota Gordon, as good as we've seen him at San Diego State, is ultimately going to get drafted in the first 7 rounds.
Right.
But I would think that the Chargers, because I know that they definitely worked him out privately, I definitely know that they were present at his San Diego State Pro Day when they had that. I would definitely think that they would be picking up the phone to give him a call if it ultimately comes down to the undrafted free agent market, that they're going to give him a look.
Anybody know off the top of their head how tall he is? He seemed like he was a pretty short guy.
He is. He's just really stout. I think he's like 5'10", 5'11", I want to say.
Yeah, I thought he was. He looked kind of short, I remember.
My last one for you would be wide receiver, Jake. And I know we just got Travis Benjamin, and we seem like we're okay at wide receiver, but I'm still not sold on this wide receiving core. Who in the later rounds do you see the Padres, the Chargers targeting as a potential fill-in for Malcolm Floyd? Let's be honest here. We lost Ladarius Green and we lost Malcolm Floyd. Those are big losses. Travis Benjamin's not going to – he's going to be a great addition, but he's not going to cover the whole field. Let's pinpoint on a wide receiver, maybe 3rd to the 5th round. Who do you see the Chargers potentially grabbing, or who would they be interested in?
Well, you have to look at it like this. Let's not forget the complement of wide receivers that are currently on the Chargers roster as we speak. Obviously, Travis Benjamin, big free agent signing, coming to replace the void left by Malcolm Floyd. Keenan Allen is, of course, you're at your number 2. You're still bringing back Stevie Johnson as your slot receiver at number 3. You still have Dontrell Inman. You still have Javonte Herdman. And you still have our boy, Tyrell Williams. Yes. So your receiving class is not that thin as you think. However, I do believe that there are some receivers towards the later rounds that you may be looking at, because we know that both Stevie Johnson, Dontrell Inman, or for that matter, Tyrell Williams might not be here the following year after that, or somebody might be cut towards the duration of camp depending on the competition. So when you look at it from that standpoint, I think those are the three receivers that you really need to key into as far as who should be possibly worried about their roster positions if someone else comes in. So you look at down there in the later rounds as far as, either people that the Chargers have met with. I know that the Chargers met with Michael Thomas, but he's more of a higher pick. I wouldn't expect him to be a choice that's that high. A Hunter Sharp is another one, because the majority of these wide receivers, if you look at them through the combine, they were not that impressive, especially from the speed standpoint. It seems like a majority of these wide receivers that are coming out in this class are strictly 2s and 3s, more like slot receivers. There's nobody who's really there's not really a big handful of people that are a downfield threat in this particular draft. There's other ones like a Taj Sharp that I know is another option. There's a Jay Lee out of Baylor. There's a number of guys really when you get that low as far as looking at the at the chart of wherever it's going to be as far as how the draft's going to fall. But ultimately, when you're looking at who's going to be possibly replaced, you really need to centralize around Inman, Williams, and Stevie Johnson. I think that they're completely happy for the fact that they were able to land Travis Benjamin for that deep threat spot. Of course, Keenan Allen can be more versatile as far as what the things that he can do that we've already seen. So if wide receiver is going to be chosen at any point in this draft, you have to look at those three individuals that are already on the Chargers roster as people that will possibly be replaced by a possible draft pick.
Couple questions if we're going to talk wide receivers. We'll stick there for a second. You mentioned if you keep saying if these guys are on the roster, Stevie Johnson, is there a chance that they cut him this preseason? And my other wide receiver question is Keenan Allen. What are the chances of him getting a contract extension before the season starts?
Keenan Allen's contract should have been signed 2 weeks ago. It should have been drawn up, put in front of him, and had him signed 2 weeks ago. So that contract extension needs to get done sooner rather than later, hopefully before the beginning of the season starts, so we don't have to deal with the distraction of play in order for him to sign. Ultimately, I know that the Chargers want to get that done, and I think that they ultimately will get it done, so we won't have to worry about the possibility of him hitting the free agent market next year. That being said, Stevie Johnson, during training camp last year, he looked amazing.
Yes.
His with Rivers was off the charts, and he looked like one of the best receivers out there. And a lot of people were really surprised by that. And towards the beginning of the year, through the preseason, he was hampered a little bit with injuries. He was never really able to get into a consistent flow with the offense. And who ultimately knows why. But I think that the Chargers will end up keeping him unless he is absolutely outperformed and blown out of the water by either the incumbents of Inman or Williams. I think that they ultimately will keep him on this roster.
I hope so, because what I saw, I like the attitude. I like he plays with he plays like a linebacker almost at the wide receiver position. Just his attitude, I really, really liked. And when he seemed like he was healthy, he was really a big contributor. The problem is staying healthy, and that's kind of been a problem he's had throughout his career. So I think health is key for him. But if he stays healthy with Benjamin coming in, I think that only makes him more of a threat and more of a and another thing that hurt him last year, of course, was Keenan Allen going down. Because Stevie Johnson, let's face it, he's not a number one wide receiver. And but if he's a number 3 wide receiver, I think he could really benefit for that, and he can really, really have himself a solid, strong season. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and you can't discount his veteran prowess either, because now he becomes, the oldest guy on the roster, and not indicative to his decreasing talent by any means necessary. But I think that the Chargers like that. I think that they like having that veteran type of presence. I think Phillip likes that, having that veteran type of presence. He always kind of feels that they're, his security blanket. And of course, with however Antonio Gates is going to be able to perform, this year, possibly his last year, he'll want every piece of veteran presence that he can get along that offense. So I think that's another reason why Stevie Johnson ultimately sticks on this roster this next season.
Now, Mike Seifers, any word on whether or not he's going to be back next year, if the Chargers are going to bring in another punter to compete with him, if they're going to redo his contract, if they're going to release him? Heard anything on him?
Who knows? I mean, there were reports earlier on, a couple months back that Seifers was considering retirement. And then a lot of people have said that, the Chargers should either rework his contract because he ultimately said he was going to return for this next season, so that they should, restructure him so they can ultimately open up more cap space. But let's just say this. We didn't expect Josh Lambo to come in last year and unseat Nick Novak from the kicking spot. Nobody expected that.
Right.
That just came out of nowhere. So that there is going to be a punter or two or three in camp that is going to be competing for a spot. And you could find yourself ultimately in another situation where the Chargers are cap-strapped, and if somebody shows enough talent that you may want to take another risk, just like you did with Lambeau, unload that money that you're paying for Seifers for this year, pay less to a rookie, and ultimately hope that you succeed. And let's not also forget how the new kickoff rules are going to impact everybody. Obviously, maybe not Mike Seifers from a kickoff standpoint, but ultimately with all these special teams rules, what is it ultimately going to lead to? So you also are eventually going to have to factor that into it as well. But I think that the squad that they have, they'll take advantage of it. But at the end of the day, with Mike Seifers' situation, you could find yourself surprised, possibly shocked, if someone comes in and is able to compete up to his level.
Yeah, I last year, I don't know, he looked like he was a little bit hurting a little bit last year in some of the games. He certainly didn't punt like we're used to seeing him punt. I've always been a big fan of his, but pretty big contract. I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe try a different direction, at least if they don't redo his contract. Well, you know how we like to end things, so I got a few percentages games for you to play. First of all, what's the percentage that the stadium gets done and the Chargers stay?
Because we've seen the finances, I know I've stayed steady at 50%, over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to bump that up to 65% now, so I'm going to be up to 15% because we still have a lot of hurdles to go through. Ultimately, a lot of the remaining percentage of this is going to come from, is the 2/3 vote ultimately going to stick? And of course, is it going to look like the November ballot is ultimately going to vote for the Chargers getting it? So as of right now, I will stay at 65%.
65% they're staying. Well, I like it. We like the way the needle's moving. Next question, what's the percentage chance that the Chargers actually make a selection with their number 3 spot?
I'm going to say it's a 75% chance that the Chargers will stay put and make a selection at number 3.
And the third thing, who's going to win at UFC 200? McGregor or Diaz?
You know what? I'll tell you a little short story. That one hurt me because I was in Vegas watching that fight.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm a big McGregor fan. McGregor fan.
Oh, no.
And, Nate Diaz, as much as people want to harp about him, as much as I want to harp about him, he's one of the best boxers in the entire game, and the guy knows to fight. It's funny, McGregor and Diaz are almost the exact carbon copy of one another. One just seems a little bit more fight intelligent, and the other one just wants to fight. So it really hurt me, seeing that ultimately happen. But I mean, hey, what can you expect for a guy to go up 2 weight classes and give him everything he's got and just be gassed by the second round?
Yeah.
So I didn't entirely understand the concept of the rematch. But what was the best part? And this just reminded me of and this is not being indicative to how women bet at all, but it's just like the equivalent if you were to ask somebody, like, hey, honey, which team do you like? It's like, oh, I like the purple team, or I like the red. So the woman who just so happens to do my hair is actually sitting next to me in the bar. She came down with a group of us. And not knowing anything about UFC, she decided to place a $20 bet on Miesha Tate and Nate Diaz the parlay,
Oh.
and ultimately scored $868 that she got paid out on off a $20 bet. It was unbelievable. And I'm just sitting there because I've taken the time to, of course, look at this, for weeks and analyze, and that's what me and my buddies do as far as when we go to Vegas. We take a lot of time out to really think that we know what we're talking about. But of course, this is UFC. This is the beauty of Vegas. Anything can happen, and it was hilarity and embarrassment at the same time, sitting there and watching that and just kind of shaking my head and just like, yep, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So personally, I don't have an answer right now as far as who's going to take the McGregor-Diaz fight. All I'll say is this, is that my bets will be much better covered the next time that I go.
well, I'll tell you what, Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler probably 10 years ago was probably the fight that got me interested in MMA. Love that fight. That was such an awesome fight. Nick Diaz, ever since then, has been my favorite fighter. And of course, when his brother Nate started fighting, I just jumped right onto his bandwagon. So you could probably hear, you were in Vegas, but you could probably hear me screaming when Diaz started choking him out. Not that I don't like McGregor, but I'm a huge Diaz fan, so I'm gonna be rooting for him. So that's who I think is gonna win. For those of you who are Charger fans, we just bored probably a whole bunch of people because. But Darren's a UFC fan too. He says Diaz exposed the ground game, baby. Diaz wins again is what Darren in the chat room says. I hope he's right. But I know you're a big MMA fan, so I like to mix in that every once in a while. Once again, Jake, we love having you on. We missed you last week. Unfortunately, we had to cancel on you, so we appreciate you hanging in there, and we look forward to talking to you next Wednesday and each and every Wednesday about Chargers draft, off-season, all that good stuff.
I can't wait. Get the wire straight. Get whatever, satellite communication you got to get on, and let's get the band back together, baby. That's what I'm looking forward to, is getting the other two boys back on here.
We're going to do it, man. We're going to do it. And Mikey even said he's going to come back into the studio and sit down with me within the next week or two. So who knows? You might have all four of us next week.
Oh, I can't wait, man. That would be such a nice reunion. Seriously, I can't wait.
Hey, thanks, Jake.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye-bye.
It's good talking with Jake, man.
Yeah, it was. I got to see if I can figure out how to get this going. Okay. So, Jake Hefner, once again, it was kind of nice having a couple people be able to throw him questions. It's been a while since we've been able to do that. That was really cool.
Yeah. It's enjoyable when he gives us his insight. He knows a lot about what's going on.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna be talking Chargers. We're gonna be talking Padres, Aztecs, whatever goes. We can take it any direction we want. Friar Blue. The line is open, so you can call in and tell us why your
negativity reign.
Yeah. Tell us why the Padres are gonna lose 120 this year. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back, man.
Because I'm all about value. Bert Camper's got the man hits. You try to match wits. You try to hold me, but I bust through. Gonna make a break and take a fake out like a sink and they can shake out like vanilla. It's the finest of the flavors. Gonna see the show, cause then you'll know the vertigo is gonna grow, cause it's so dangerous. You'll have to sign a waiver. Can't I help it if I think you're funny when you're mad? Trying hard not to smile, though I feel bad. I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral. Can't understand what I mean, well, you soon will. I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. I have a history of taking up.
Cali Comfort Barbecue in Spring Valley was built for West Coast Sunday morning football and fight night. Cali Comfort Barbecue has quickly become San Diego's slow smoke barbecue sports entertainment destination. Full service catering available for all your tailgating needs. CaliComfortSD.com.
All right, we're back. Of course, you got to hear me talk. Supposed to be off the air, but what are you going to do? We've got. I'm trying to work this out here. We got Friar Blue on the phone, calling in. He was in the chat room earlier today. He's calling in to talk. I don't know if he's going to be talking about Chargers, Padres, Aztecs, what he's bringing. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well today. I'm doing well.
Good to hear from you, man.
Good to hear from you guys, too. So, first thing is... it's time to get the mayor out of San Diego, the mayor that we have, that says no to downtown. That guy needs to go. We need to get the lady, Miss Lori over there, the princess, the lady who's going to bring San Diego the stadium.
Is he still saying no to downtown? I thought that they're moving forward with downtown now, ready to embrace the downtown.
Oh, I didn't know that. Last time I heard, I haven't been paying attention too much about the stadium, but last I heard he was saying no to downtown when the Chargers said, hey, we want to go to downtown, we want to bring it to downtown, and he was saying, no, we got to keep the Mission Valley site because of the hotels. He's in the pocket of the hotel.
Really? That's interesting. So we were talking about the, hold on 1 second real quick. Hold on, I'm trying to make this work here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just lost our caller. Hopefully he can call back. Like I said, we're in a, like we're retarded on here. I was trying to do two things at once, and I just hung up on our.
Was that Friar Blue?
I just hung up on Friar Blue.
You're being expectingly. That's pretty negative of you.
I'm sorry, Friar Blue. I hope you're listening still. If you are, call back in, and I'm going to try and bring you in. I screwed it up. This is our first time doing multiple people on the line.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Please stand by.
So we'll try again. So, anyways, since he's not on right now, what are your thoughts on the Padres season, Justin?
I think it's going to be interesting, man. I think you have the same. We don't really know what to expect, right. Do we? I think
I'm gonna try and bring him in here. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you there? Hello. Hello. Oh, that's not working. All right. Got you back there. I don't know what's going on.
Me neither.
So ultimately, expectation-wise, high expectations for all of us, of course. I do think that... here we go again. Let me try it here. It's not letting me do...
three-way?
It's not letting me do three-way. Let me try it again here. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay. All right, man. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble figuring out how to make this three-way call work. It was working before, but now it's not. It's giving me trouble. Oh, are you gone? Are you still there?
Sure.
Okay, good. So, anyways, you really truly think that the Padres are going to lose over 100 games?
It's really, really difficult for me to be a believer right now. And why do you think I feel that way? First off,
well, I think if you look at the team on paper, the pitching is a question mark. Position by position, we lost Upton. Upton was although he didn't have as great of a season, I think, as everybody thinks. He did add power. He did add something that the team doesn't have anymore. So you got to think that that's a downgrade a little bit, losing him. But ultimately, baseball is more about everybody playing together. It's not necessarily individual people. And I personally am hoping, and thinking that Andy Green might be able to bring these guys together. Andy Green's somebody that nobody really knows that much about as a manager. Has the opportunity to really bring this team together. We might be able to do something this year. But I can see why you think that they're going to lose more. I can see how people think that. But if you're a fan, I don't know. You're not optimistic at all?
Well, it's a little hard, and I'll tell you why. First off, I do like that he obviously had a lot of time with the manager from the Cardinals, the great Tony La Russa. Also, I think it was Division III. He had 2 Division III championships in college. But the thing that I'm really, really worried about is our bullpen. We got rid of Benoit. We got rid of Kimbrell. We got rid of Romanian today. It's really hard to think about how this bullpen is going to keep these Padres intact. Are we expecting the Padres starting pitching to go 7 innings? Or even more because our bullpen is completely strapped right now. We're looking at, a guy that's barely even pitched to be our closer next year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that and we've talked about that this whole offseason, how the bullpen and especially Fernando Rodney worries us as a closer. We got Justin back on the line right now too, finally. Justin,
what's up, guys? What's
your thoughts on Fernando Rodney? Does that make you a little bit nervous?
Well, first off, he needs to fix his hat. I'm pissed off about that. You know how that goes. But no, I would agree with Fryer. That's the biggest concern of this team. You look at last year's bullpen. It was okay. But when you had Kimbrel back there, it was great to have him as your guy, and Benoit as a setup man. Nick Vincent goes to the Mariners. Yeah,
that's right. They just traded him.
So you bring in a guy named Straley from Houston for Eric Kratz. You just don't know how it's all going to come together here. The only thing you can hang your hat on is you have a good pitching coach in Darren Balsley, who gets the best out of players, and I guess we'll see. That's going to be the roll of the dice this year, I think. What do you guys think?
I'm also looking at our lineup. Our lineup is could be good, but it looks a little shaky right now. I don't know if I trust Melvin Upton to be our starting center fielder. Me personally, I think he's kind of not doing that well. He doesn't have that grit at all. He's kind of has a lot of swagger, but he doesn't really have that grit. You need grit in center field.
You're not asking him to paint your house. I think you need him to play center field. He plays good center field.
He's going to play left field, though, guys. Remember, John Jay is going to be in center.
Well, we have a lot of versatility with our outfielders this year. We got to remember that all these guys can play each position. So. But no, like I said, you're not asking him to do things he's not comfortable with, or
right.
I'm not worried about his defense. Fryer, I agree with you in a sense. I just want to see him swing the bat, and he heated up at the end of last year. So we'll see how that works, and if things can go, the way they can, I hope he plays well.
I think he definitely was solid. He was solid. He had a solid season last year. I'm not so worried about him actually going into this next season. I do agree with you though, Fryer. I am a little bit worried about the bullpen though. That is the one thing that does worry me a little bit. The rest of the team, offensively and defensively, they had some changes. They had some upgrades maybe in some positions. Some positions maybe not so. But I'm pretty optimistic about everything except for the bullpen.
What do you think of that guy Perella? I was looking at him. He looks like he's going to be a good player. I just don't know if he's going to start or he's going to go down to AAA. What's going on with him? I also hate the fact that we got rid of Viriano. I think he could have been our starting left fielder. I'm very bummed about that. I really liked Reimer Viriano. I liked him a lot.
I think they gave Reimer a lot of time. He just wasn't, and when you get a new regime in here, as you know, Fryer, I think sometimes they don't like the fact that it's not their guy that they brought in. And did you see where he got blasted in the face with the baseball? He's out for a while. Yeah. So, I hope he gets better, but that sucks that happened. But, I just think it was a time issue. And as far as who'd you bring up earlier? What was the guy before that?
Perella?
Oh, Perella, yeah. But I think he's going to start in AAA. That's what all indications are. I don't know why. I like him too. There's a lot of guys I like. The kid from Boston that we just got, Manny Margot, he's going to be a player. They just got to give him a little more time. But yeah, this roster's shaping out. I think the key to the season, Friars, is Will Myers. You got to stay healthy, and he can bat behind Kemp or whoever you're going to put back there. Obviously, Kemp's going to be your 3 or 4 hole hitter. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting season, but I think it's going to be more exciting than we think it is, and I think they're going to be very, very competitive.
Yeah, I hope so. But I have a question for you. The new GM hasn't gotten us in the playoffs yet. How many years is it going to take of him not getting us in the playoffs before they actually fire this guy?
That's going to be about 20.
Yeah, he's only.
That's what the Padres do. They wait about 20 years. They're mediocrity. They like mediocrity.
Well, let's let's back up the train just a little bit. So he's been the GM for what, 1 year?
Yeah, he's only been here one season.
So he has one season under his belt not making the playoffs.
Right.
Let's talk more about this when we get to 5. I mean, let's have a tiny bit of patience, for crying out loud.
Right.
One season, we're already talking about how long before we have to let him go. You know, I think that's a little bit premature. Second thing is, I love the fact that he was wheeling and dealing last year trying to make something happen. Did everything hit? No, obviously not. Biggest mistake of the year was him getting rid of Bud Black, I think. Now, whether or not keeping Bud Black would have put us in the playoffs or not, who knows? Probably not, but you never know. But the fact that he was at least doing something, because how many years do we do nothing? All we used to do was pick up guys off the scrap heap that were released by other teams and try and make them players here. So the fact that he was out there trying to make something happen excited me as a fan. Now, not everything's always going to hit. We'll have to see this year to see if he made some better moves this offseason or not. You know, bringing in a shortstop finally was a good call. You know, we'll have to see. But I think it's way too early to start talking about when are we going to replace him.
You guys would have to agree that Alexi is a big upgrade over Amarista.
Yes,
Alexi Ramirez, I should say.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't think I don't know how Amarista this year makes the team with Jamil Weeks playing the well as he is, Jabari Blash playing as well as he is. You know, I hate to say that, but Amarista's got to go. It's time for him to leave. I like Amarista. He's very versatile, but I just think it's time. I don't know where. I've been listening on the radio. I don't know where the loyalty lies. You gotta cut ties with this guy eventually. So I just think we're better defensively, and it's going to help everybody out, and it's going to be fun for me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a lot like 2 years ago when we had all those Dominican Republic guys everywhere in every position. You know, running as hard as they possibly can. You know, using every single ounce of energy they had to bring the ruckus. It's not a whole bunch of millionaires, full-time millionaires, just going out there and only hitting, you know, once every 5 days or whatever. It's going to be a little different, I think. I'm getting a little more optimistic. I just don't like this bullpen. I really don't like what they did to the bullpen. It really hurt.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with you. I think that the bullpen they haven't given the attention to that they should have. One thing that we've talked about a little bit, I'd like to get your thoughts on, Fire, is the catching situation. What do you think that they're going to do? You think they're going to go into the season with 3 catchers? Do you think one of these guys is going to go down to AAA? Do you think somebody's going to get traded? What's your thoughts on that position?
What I'd like to see is one of them get traded and possibly get something a little more there in our, you know, AAA or AA. But it's probably not going to happen. It's my guess is we'll probably have to send down Hedges. That would probably be the smartest move to me, is sending down Hedges and then have those 2 catchers who are both drafted in the first round. I really like these catchers a lot. Obviously, Norris and Betancourt are pretty tight too. Okay. What about this president? I think this guy needs to go.
Who?
D needs to go. He's terrible.
Are you talking about Mike D, the president?
Yeah, he's terrible.
What is
he's ruining our stadium.
What is he? He's ruining the stadium?
Yeah.
What'd he do? All I've seen is upgrades.
It's really disrespectful that he switched those Hall of Famers to the other side and put a casino board on there.
So what Friar Blue's talking about is the Hall of Famers, the Hall of Fame numbers on top of the batter's eye. They've got moved to the walk-in area. I think in one of the entrances.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm correct, I think that's where they put them.
I didn't even know they were moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't like that move either, Friar. Pretty disrespectful. I don't know. I don't know if it's disrespectful, but it was a little. I scratched my head on it. That's for sure. I don't know what to make of that.
Okay, so get this right here. was just crazy. You want to hear something crazy?
Sure.
I would love to.
Okay, so he says that the Hall of Fame numbers were bad for the batter's eye, and they were in the eye. So what does he do? What does he put on there instead of the
Saquon sign?
A Saquon sign that's more colorful than the actual numbers.
Right. I know.
Money talks, unfortunately.
Right.
That's funny. That's
yeah, that's lame.
Yeah, he needs to go just because of that decision.
Yeah,
well, hey, I mean, that's.
I'm not sure if. Yeah, I'm not sure if. I mean, I would much rather, as a fan,
as long as the Saquon money's going back into the team, I'm fine with it.
Just aesthetically, I'd rather see the retired numbers up there. I agree with you, but I also understand that there's two sides to every coin, and they have to do things to make money as well, and I would rather they didn't do that. But didn't they have Justin, when we went there last year? Wasn't there like a big what was it, a college or something?
Yeah, they have a university sign out in left center.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that either. But
no, it's not cool. But you know what they did do, Fryer and Jason? They put out the Hall of Fame guys that they took the numbers down off the batter eye.
Yeah.
They put a nice like statue type thing around the behind the plate where the Jerry Coleman area is. They put a Tony Gwynn number 19, Dave Winfield number 19, and so on and so forth. And they put real nice like they do at Qualcomm for their players there.
Okay.
But they made them really nice there. So they did supplement the players. They put them. They're in the ballpark. So.
Yeah. They
did replace those numbers. They're just in a different area.
Yeah, I'd have to go down and when I go to the games this year, I'll have to take a look at it and see to form an opinion on it.
And you both understand that the beach is gone this year.
Yeah, I heard that too because
there's a deck going in out there. So I mean that's going to be different as well.
Yeah. So So you're going to be on Fox News, Fox in the Morning, San Diego on Monday. Is that correct, Fryer?
Yeah, I'm going to be there on Monday.
What are you doing?
I believe it's probably going to be at 9 because they're telling me that I need to be at Petco Park by 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'm almost 100% positive it's probably going to be 9, but it might be between 8 and 9. But I have this weird feeling that maybe the Padres are thinking, hey, we're going to make money from the All-Star game. Why spend all this money? Maybe wait a year and then spend money again. Kind of what the Giants are doing. Yeah, I don't know if you saw what the Giants are doing, but they spent a whole bunch of money, went to the World Series, won the World Series. The next year after that, took away a lot of their talent, kept a lot of their talent, dropped a whole bunch of money, and then this year they spent over $100 million on new pitching and hitting.
Well, you got to remember they have a lot of homegrown talent that they didn't need to pay right away, so they've been pretty good for a long time.
Yeah.
I would agree with you in a sense. They're spending money here and there. They're smart with their money, but they have a lot of homegrown guys that they take care of every few years. The Brandon Crawfords, the Buster Posies, and then they go out and get guys like Hunter Pence that are just great fits. So, they know how to grow a farm system to me.
They got a pretty good manager too.
They do.
So
that's why we should have got Dusty Baker.
Oh, I've never been a fan of his. I'm so happy we didn't hire him.
Me too. Terrible coach.
You got all those playoffs and all those.
Yeah, that was in 1937.
Yeah, and I think that was despite him, not because of him. That's my opinion. I just never been a fan of Dusty Baker.
Yeah, everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of his. I actually like the Andy Green hiring. I think that he's going to try and bring some new blood in. Maybe it works. Yeah, maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. But we're.
Yeah, I haven't.
Oh, go ahead.
I haven't met him yet, so I can't really say too much. Although I don't like the fact that we got a third base coach. I mean, that's kind of, we should have got someone that has, major league experience in the manager level. I know he's won 2 Division II or Division III championships, and he's got that under his belt in college. But he really only is a third base coach. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Well, everybody was a manager for the first time at one time, so why not here? You know, he's got to be the man. He's got to be the manager at the beginning somewhere. So wouldn't it be cool to actually make the playoffs and do something special with a rookie manager? I think that would be pretty awesome. All right, Friar, we got to move on, but I welcome everybody out there to watch Fox in the Morning on Monday morning between 8 and 9. Probably look for you, and my thought, my feelings are you'll probably be a little bit more positive about the Padres when you're on TV. Would be my guess.
Padres.
Of course, I'm going to be super optimistic. I'm going to bring the ruckus. I'm going to let it go on. I'm going to be extremely, positive. I can't be negative on TV. You know, we're the Friars of the right field mission. Regardless, we're going to bring the ruckus as hard as we possibly can and try to get our Padres to the World Series.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's what it's
All
about.
right, buddy.
I'll set my DVR. I look forward to seeing you, man. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for the chat room stuff today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Later, bro.
All right. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this without disconnecting you now, Justin.
You know what happened earlier is I tried to call in with a group chat, and that's why it wasn't working.
Is that what happened? Okay.
I had to end it, and I know we're talking over this on the air, but I had to single it out, and we're good now.
Oh, so we're going to put that on you. We're going to blame you for that goal.
You can blame that for me.
Nice.
That's fine. You usually do.
So, optimistically speaking, then, we talked about it before. I really think that the Padres are going to win more games than they did last year. But I'll tell you one thing I am concerned about that he brought up, and he's not wrong, and that's the bullpen, man.
Yeah.
The bullpen scares me a little bit. I'm be honest with you.
Definitely, it scares me too. But I think this is the first time in a really long time we've been very unsure about our bullpen, which is crazy to say. I even think last year we were kind of confident in what we had, even though, Benoit wasn't a fan favorite, but Kimbrel was. You had a Nick Vincent in there. You had a Thayer. I mean, you had guys that you knew. This is a whole new situation for us this year, so this should be very, very interesting.
Fernando Rodney, is he the closer all year, or do you think that he ends up getting bounced out of there and somebody else comes in?
God, man, that's dicey. I just don't feel good about that. As tough as that is to say, I don't. Why not try, Kevin Quackenbush or Brandon Maurer? I like Brandon Maurer this year in the pen. He's going to be solid. I don't know if he could be a closer, but I think he's got closer type stuff. He's got mid-90s fastball. I don't see why not. So.
Yeah, I want to stay positive about Fernando Rodney. I've never been a fan of his. However, he is a Padre, so I'm jumping on board with him.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm not nervous though. And
of course,
one thing that Darren keeps saying is he keeps laughing, saying, "Welcome to everybody else's problem," because we haven't worried about our bullpen. We haven't worried about our closer
exactly
for so long, and now all of a sudden we're like everybody else, wondering what's going to happen when our closer goes out there. So
and that's it, man. We've never really experienced this, and it's been a long time.
Yeah, I do think that the key to him having a successful season, of course, is getting that hat on straight.
That would be it.
Yeah, it's the damn crooked hat.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we kind of already covered the Aztecs, and I don't want to get the.
No, I don't even want to talk about that.
I want to save up some stuff about that with Mikey. He's not here today, so we'll talk to Mikey next week about the Aztecs. They're not going anywhere, so we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Padres. We pretty much covered that, and Chargers. I think we're good for this week. I think that we're going to wrap things up here.
Well, that's good, man. We had a good show, and I'm glad this whole technology thing worked out.
For the most part, we had some
some issues.
Yeah, we had to. And you know what Friar Blue also mentioned before. Thanks for calling him, by the way. He's nervous about the season, and he says stop the spear. And I think he's talking about, doesn't Fernando Rodney do some bow and arrow thing or something?
Right.
When he
he does something that he does to the sky.
I'll tell you what. I hope that I see that 50 times this year, because that means that he's saving games.
Exactly.
But we'll see what happens, man. Thanks a lot, Friar Blue. Thanks, Darren. Thanks a lot, everybody else in the chat room. Justin, it was so nice to have you on from beginning to end. I look forward to now every Wednesday, since we'll only get better at this too.
Well, yeah, and then, like we say, everyday life and what we have, I can always make it in, and I haven't in a while, and I apologize. But if we can keep doing this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is much better, and it's better to do the show together. I enjoy it so.
For sure.
So that's going to wrap it up for us. You can catch us live every Wednesday on Spreaker, but if you aren't able, we start at 7, we go till whenever. If you're not able to catch us on Spreaker, of course, we're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Those are all the recorded versions of the show. But if you want to be part of the show, you want to call in, you want to be in the chat room, you got to come on live with us every Wednesday and join the show. Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Don't forget on Monday to tune in to Fox, local Fox station, Fox 5 in the morning, around 8 o'clock. I think between 8 and 9, Friar Blue's going to be on there, bringing his positivity about the Padres. And and yes, we look forward to seeing that. Thanks a lot. We're the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans.
By the fans.
And we are out.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.